everyone, so today's video is a really exciting one and I thought it would be kind of fun to do as well. I believe I originally saw Mandy Lee create this video, so I'll have her video linked down below, but I kind of got inspired by her to create this. And basically these are all of my impulse purchases, and within the last year I've really started to control the products more that I'm bringing into my collection. So I don't have many impulse purchases within the past like 6 to 8 months. So these products are a little bit on the older side and products that I did purchase a while ago. So I definitely have solid opinions on them, and I thought it would just be fun to go through them and tell you whether or not it was a good impulse purchase or not. And a lot of my collection I have ended up decluttering in the past year. So there are a lot of products that were impulse purchases that I have already decluttered, but let's just go ahead and get into the products. So the first one is a foundation. This is the Wet n Wild Photo Focus foundation, and this one was pretty hyped up, and I ended up going into CVS one day to pick up something else completely different, not related to makeup. And I can't help myself but browse through the makeup section, and I found this foundation, and obviously it had been really hyped up. This was like around the time it was really hyped up, and I just couldn't help myself. It was only like $3 or $4, so I ended up purchasing it. And honestly, I used it quite a bit, but I didn't love the way it looked on my skin. Part of that may have been because I applied too much, but it is a pretty full coverage foundation and it's on the more matte side, and I tend to prefer the opposite. Also, this shade match isn't terrible on me, but it is a little bit light still, and I feel like it's better to go lighter with foundation than darker because you can always just deepen it up a little bit with bronzer. But I did really enjoy this foundation. I feel like when I first got it, and it does wear really well, but now Wet n Wild is no longer cruelty free, and this is actually on my chopping block. So if you didn't see that video, I will have it linked if you're interested. So stay tuned for the updated chopping block where I decide if I will declutter this or not. But basically, my opinions are kind of mixed. So I wouldn't consider this a winner, but I wouldn't necessarily consider it a loser either. I feel like I did get some good use out of it, but it's not my favorite foundation. So I feel like this is not one that I would recommend. And I'm glad I was able to try it out though, and since it is really inexpensive. But now I've kind of gotten away from just purchasing makeup because it is so expensive, or so inexpensive. So I wouldn't recommend this, but I'm glad I got to try it, and it's not the worst foundation. The next product and sort of brand that I made a lot of impulse purchases from about a year ago, or a year ago and later than that, because like I said, in the past 8 or 9 months, I haven't really made any impulse purchases. So these are both from ColourPop, and it's one of their ultra glossy lips and their ultra blotted lips. So I used to buy so many ColourPop lip products, and I have now decluttered not most of them, but a good portion of them. I've decluttered more than I've kept, which says a lot because I still do have a lot of ColourPop lip products. So I don't know what drew me in so much from ColourPop. Maybe it's because they always released new products, so there was always new things to try, and I don't really support ColourPop anymore just because of their fast fashion sort of makeup brand and the way they brand themselves. So I haven't purchased from ColourPop in a really long time, and I sort of regret purchasing these products, not because they're bad. They are really good products, especially for the price. But I just have so many ColourPop glosses and liquid lipsticks. The reason I purchased the Ultra Blotted Lip is because I remember purchasing one just to try out the formula, and I really loved the formula, and I just had to have all the shades, so I purchased a bunch more. So I do have like 4 or 5 of these now, but I do like the Blotted Lip formula. It's like a really nice, natural sheer wash of color, and it's not too drying either. So I do love the Ultra Blotted formula, but I just wish I hadn't purchased so many of the ColourPop lip products, and a lot of them are basically dupes within the brand. So like some of my ColourPop glosses look exactly the same, and I have since decluttered those ones because I don't need 2 glosses that are basically exactly the same. So yeah, this was just, ColourPop was the brand that sort of killed me when it came to impulse purchases because it was just so tempting and their products are so inexpensive. So I have made a lot of not so smart impulse purchases from ColourPop. The next product is actually from Natasha Denona, and this is their Chroma Crystal Top Coat. This one is in the shade Nude, so it's basically just their most natural shade. And this is basically that really pretty lid topper type shade that everyone used to be obsessed with, and I feel like still is sort of obsessed with. So I have ever only made one Natasha Denona purchase in my life from her website, and it was when she was having a sale, and I can't remember exactly. It was a couple years ago, and I knew I wanted the Sunrise palette, which was the main thing I made the purchase for. And then I think I needed like probably $15 more or something to get to free shipping. So I was like, well, okay, I'll just add a couple inexpensive things which don't exist from Natasha Denona to my cart. And this was one of the things that I ended up adding, and I was already sort of interested in these because I do love those sort of lid topper shades, but I already had a bunch of ColourPop Super Shock shadows, and I purchased this really excited to try it out, and I did really love it and got a lot of use out of it when I first purchased it. But I realize now it is pretty similar to the ColourPop Super Shock shadow, so it just gives that really pretty sheer wash of glitter to the lid, and it almost makes your lids look wet, which you can get a pretty similar effect with the Super Shock shadows. And this has now almost dried out. I can still use it and it still looks pretty, but it is like dried out for a product that is that expensive. I did get it on sale, and I'm not sure how much these are full price, but I just would expect this to last longer and not dry out as quickly as it did. So this was a product that I was kind of more disappointed in, but one that I'm actually really glad I did end up purchasing is the Natasha Denona Bronze and Glow, and I purchased both these in the same order. So I added these sort of two little products to my cart along with the Sunrise palette, which I do really love the Sunrise palette as well. That wasn't an impulse purchase though. And I don't know why I decided to purchase this. I guess I just wanted to try out some more Natasha Denona products, and this was a little mini. So it does come with a bronzer and a highlighter, and these pans are pretty small. The highlighter is fine because I do use a smaller brush for my highlight, but the bronzing slash blush shade is sort of small to get a brush in here. But I mean, it is Natasha Denona and it is obviously mini. I have gotten a lot of use out of this bronzing shade, and I really love the color of this. It's the perfect in between like a blush and a bronzer. So when I use this bronzing shade, I feel like I don't need to use a separate blush and bronzer. I sort of just put it in the middle almost as both a blush and bronzer. So I do really I cannot speak. I do really love this bronzing shade. The highlight is a little bit too dark for me. I can pull it off, especially in the summer months and if I mix it with a little bit of a lighter highlight, but I do really love this bronzing shade, and I am glad that I did end up purchasing this. I don't have many like luxury high-end products in my collection, so I'm happy to have this one. And speaking of luxury high-end products, the next one is the RMS Beauty Living Luminizer Glow Quad, and this is one of the newest products to my collection. I did purchase it a couple months back during the Sephora VIB sale, and this comes with 4 creams. It is 3 highlighters and 1 bronzer, and this was sort of an impulse purchase. This was like not even on my radar before the Sephora sale happened, and obviously I watch a lot of YouTubers Sephora recommendations when everyone was coming out with those videos before the sale. So I think I heard a couple YouTubers talk about this. The main one was Steph, and I will have her channel linked down below. So she was, I think, the main YouTuber that sort of convinced me to purchase this. And since it was a little mini and only $25, I felt like it was a pretty good deal because the full size of this is I believe like around $50, which is so expensive. And RMS Beauty is a clean beauty brand, which sort of made me even more intrigued by it because I do like to try out more clean beauty products and support clean beauty brands. And I have been really interested in creams recently as well. And I really liked the look of this bronzer shade. It's sort of similar, or what I picture to be, the Tower 28 Bronzino bronzer. So I feel like it is similar to that, or what I picture that to be. I don't have the Tower 28 bronzer, but I do really love this bronzer. And even these three highlighters, I love every single shade in here, which makes it even better because most of the time with a lot of these face palettes, there's shades in them that you don't really like or tend to not use. And with all of these, I really do get use out of every single one of them. So I would highly recommend this if you're looking to try out some more cream highlighters and bronzers, and especially from a clean beauty brand. The next impulse purchase I did buy a few years ago, probably in like 2018. This is the Becca and Khloe and Malika collaboration face palette. So this was the collaboration they did a while back, and I believe this is no longer available, but this is a beautiful palette. Obviously these are all baked, so they do take forever to go through, and it almost looks like I haven't used them very much at all, but I have used this palette so much. This is probably one of my most used face palettes, and again with this palette, I really love every single shade in here. So that is what I sort of look for in a face palette. If I can use every single shade, then I feel like it is worth it. And the reason I purchased this is I think I was already making a Sephora order, and this was in the sales section. I always go through the sales section when I'm going to make a Sephora order, and I've been better with this recently in the past year, like I've said, with not impulse buying products. But this was on sale and I already thought it was a beautiful palette, so I figured I'd just pick it up, and I'm really happy that I did pick this up. This is definitely one of my favorite face palettes, if not my most favorite face palette, and I've definitely gotten my money's worth out of this, and I will continue to love it and use it. Even though this is no longer available, you can still find pretty much any product you want on apps like Mercari, where it's like secondhand sellers. So if you do really want this palette, I would recommend looking on there and purchasing it from there, and you can get them for a really good price. So I'm really happy I did end up picking this face palette up. Now we're getting into a few eyeshadow palettes that were impulse purchases. So the first one is from ABH, and it is the Sultry palette. This is probably like the least impulse purchase out of all of these. Does that even make sense? But this is a really beautiful palette, and I sort of wanted this almost to complete my collection from ABH because I do already have the Soft Glam, the Norvina, and the Jackie Aina palette, which I know isn't all of their palettes, but I just really loved the look of this, and I figured I don't have many cool toned shadows in my collection, so that's sort of how I justified this purchase, because I thought there was a lot of cool tones in here, and everyone talks about this palette as if it is a cool tone palette, but it is really more of a neutral palette. It is still really beautiful. I love especially these metallic shades you get in the top row, and I feel like ABH is like, I like them the most for their metallic formula and their metallic shades. So I do really love this palette. As you can see, I've gotten a lot of use out of it. I do have Pan in one of the shades. This was in, I forget which project pan, but one of them. And I do really love this palette. I did get it secondhand off of, I believe, Poshmark. So again, you can find this. This is technically not available anymore. I don't know if they're still selling it in the little set like they did for the holidays. But again, you can find this on secondhand apps like Poshmark, which is where I got mine. And it was pretty much brand new when I got it. So I'm really happy I did end up purchasing this, and I got it for a really good price, even though I didn't really need more eyeshadows. I am really glad to have this in my collection, and ABH is one of my favorite formulas as well, so I kind of knew I wasn't going to be disappointed with this one. The next impulse purchase is the Urban Decay Born to Run palette, and this is another one that was very hyped up, and I actually waited, well, I didn't wait, but I saw it was on sale, and again, I was probably already making a Sephora purchase, so I just decided to throw this in my cart. And I feel like eyeshadow palettes, a lot of the eyeshadow palettes on Sephora end up going on sale eventually. So if something is really hyped up, you're better off waiting for a sale anyways. And this went on sale, I feel like not long after it released. So I did pick it up on sale again, and this has a really good variety of shades in here. I don't know why. I just never really reach for this, and the packaging of this palette is stunning. It just has these photos of a bunch of different destinations and amazing looking places. And I don't know what the color story of this just doesn't draw me in for some reason, and it might just be sort of the random, like, I don't know, maybe because there's so much variety in here, it's almost like I don't know what to do with it. But I have used this a little bit, and I did do a 1 week, one palette video that I posted, I believe, like a week or two ago. So I'll have that linked if you are interested. But this palette just, I don't know, for some reason does not inspire me when it should, because it has a really good variety of shades in here. And I feel like the metallic formula of these is not my favorite. They're not the most metallic and intense shades. So if you want a really easy, like beginner friendly, they're not too pigmented either. So I feel like they're pretty easy to work with. So I don't really know how I feel about this palette. I'm kind of like in between. I like it, but I don't like it. So this is kind of like not a winner or a loser, and I will keep this in my collection for now, but I feel like eventually this is one I may end up decluttering. So this was not my best impulse purchase. Now for the last impulse purchase, which is the Morphe and Jaclyn Hill, the whole vault collection. And I don't know what possessed me to buy these, and I have never really liked or supported Morphe, and I did actually end up buying the James Charles palette, which I told myself I was never gonna buy. But again, that was a very bad impulse purchase, and I have already decluttered that eyeshadow palette. So these are the only Morphe palettes that I have left in my collection, and I do also have her like bigger palette, the original palette they came out with. So I don't know why I bought these, especially because I already have the original palette. But I'm not mad that I have these in my collection. I do really love the color stories. Obviously, they have they have basically every color story you need. So there's like a more warm toned one, which is really beautiful, and I do like these shadows. A lot of people didn't like the Vault Collection formula, and I don't find issues with the actual formula. There's also a really pretty cool toned purple palette, and I love my purples, and this palette is really beautiful. And I feel like all these palettes are very well curated, even though there might be some dupes to her original palette. So if you already had that one, I feel like it wasn't necessary to purchase these like I did. But I also really love this more green toned grungy palette, and I feel like this is a very unique color story, so I'm glad that I have this in my collection, along with the last one, which is a more gold warm toned color story. I feel like this is sort of on the unique side. It's not the most unique, but I also really love these green tones in here. So I don't have a problem with this formula or these palettes, and I actually do enjoy them, unlike other people, which I know some people didn't like these and they kind of got pretty bad reviews, I feel like. But I don't have a problem with my formula, and I do actually enjoy these palettes. So I feel like this was an impulse purchase I really didn't need, but I am happy to have these in my collection, especially some of the more unique palettes. So I feel like eventually I may end up decluttering a couple of these, but I am glad to have them in my collection for now, and I feel like it provides a very good variety. Like I can pretty much get any look I want out of these 4 palettes, and the color stories are definitely very curated, so whatever kind of look you want, you can get out of these. And I think it definitely wasn't necessary given that I already had the original palette and given how much eyeshadow I have in my collection. But I am glad that I do have these, even though I don't support Morphe anymore. So that's another reason I may end up decluttering a few of these in the future. But this wasn't my worst impulse purchase decision. So that is it for all of my impulse purchases. Let me know down below in the comments what some of your guys' impulse purchases have been. And I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to give it a thumbs up. And I do post new videos about 3 times a week. So if you want to see more from me, make sure to subscribe. And don't forget to hit that bell icon to get notified every time I post. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.